Hello everyone! I hope everyone is doing great. Alors, aujourd'hui, c'est pas Alex, mais c'est Khadji du Cercle des Langues. J'espère que vous allez bien. Et aujourd'hui, nous allons parler sur comment gérer une réunion professionnelle en anglais. Alors, je sais pas si vous le savez déjà, mais le Cercle des Langues est un organisme de formation en anglais qui vous permettra de travailler votre everyday English, donc l'anglais de tous les jours, et de professional English, donc l'anglais business, qui peut être financé à 100% grâce à votre CPF. Et donc, voilà, si vous voulez faire un bilan pédagogique, n'hésitez pas à visiter notre site qui est le cercledelangues.com. Are you ready for a ride? Let's go! So, our first topic of the day is greetings and small talk. So, when we start a meeting, we might say good morning, good afternoon, ce qui signifie bonjour. So, for example, good morning, everyone. We're here to have a meeting today. I hope everyone is doing well, like I just did during my introduction. How is everyone? Donc, comment va tout le monde? How has your day been? Donc, comment va votre journée? So, these are words that could be used when you're starting a meeting to say hello to everyone, of course, okay? Next, we have what we call the welcoming. So, for example, if we have a guest joining our meeting today, we might say, let me introduce. So, for example, let me introduce Jacob, who's new today and attending the professional meeting. I wish you a warm welcome is something that we could say also after we say, let me introduce someone. So, for example, let me introduce Jacob. Hello, Jacob. How are you? I wish you a warm welcome. Thank you all for coming, being present. Donc, je vous remercie d'être présent aujourd'hui dans la réunion. So, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for joining us today. Shall we go around? So, for example, shall we go around and introduce ourselves? Shall we go around and say good morning? It all depends on what you want to say when you're welcoming the guests. So, how to start a meeting? This is key. So, we could say, for example, let's. So, for example, let's start the meeting by, shall we? So, for example, shall we start the meeting by introducing ourselves? Or shall we start the meeting by talking about the key points that were mentioned during our previous meeting? Let's get going, or let's begin. Donc, commençons. Let's start with, what should we start with? So, should we start with the previous subject that was mentioned at the end of last meeting? So these are keywords to start a meeting. So during the meeting, so it's very important to know the keywords that should be mentioned during a meeting, because it helps situate exactly how you want the key points to be mentioned and throughout every single step of the meeting. So sometimes we prepare them in advance. So most of the time they are prepared in advance. So it is very important to know exactly what to say during the meeting, especially a professional meeting, of course. Making sure everyone gets the chance to speak. It's very important to give a chance to everyone to speak during the meeting. Now let's hear from. So we have a new guest coming in today, like I mentioned earlier. His name is Jacob. So now let's hear from Jacob. So Jacob, what are your ideas on this, and that? Go ahead. Anything to add? So for example, once everyone got the chance to speak, I might say per se, anything to add? So do you have anything to add? Do you have any more question? You understand? Keeping time is key. It's very important to know your time, to have time management during a professional meeting, because every single person that's present in the meeting has something else to do after the meeting. So when you tell them that the meeting is, for example, from 9 to 10, it's very, very important to keep it short, to make sure that your time is well managed and all the keys are mentioned during that 1 hour, okay? So let's skip 2. If there are things, if there are words, if there are informations that are not worth mentioning, we could skip them. So for example, let's skip to the next step of the meeting. we have a lot to get through. So when there are so many things to mention and you only have 1 hour, if you have to manage your time very, very, very well. So we're running low on time. So this is a phrase that's often mentioned during a meeting as well. Interrupting. So how to professionally interrupt someone during a meeting? It's key to do it politely. Sorry to interrupt, but. Donc, ça, c'est très important. Sorry to interrupt, but can I just, may I? But do it politely, because when someone is speaking, maybe they don't want to lose exactly what they're saying. So do it very, very politely. May I? And then say what exactly you want to say. They will give you the time to speak as well, because it's very important to hear everyone's point of view during a meeting. So just do it politely. Agreeing and disagreeing. We all have the right to agree and to disagree with someone's saying. Are we all on the same page? This gives the chance to every person who's attending the meeting to say whether they are agreeing or disagreeing with a point that has recently been mentioned. I think so too. So this is a phrase that's used to mention that you are agreeing with what someone is saying. I have to disagree. So the same way we agree is the same way we have the right to disagree. So you can say, I have to disagree with what you've just mentioned. I think my point of view is this and this and that. So what can I say? Give a valid point. It's important to give a valid point when you're disagreeing with someone. So when you take something off the table, make sure you put something on the table. Perhaps, but is used frequently as well. Checking and understanding. We can use to clarify. So to clarify what you have just said. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by. Donc, je suis pas sûre que je comprends ce que vous voulez dire par. This is to say that you did not quite understand what the person was saying and you would like them to clarify that. I'm not sure I follow. This also is used often to say that you did not quite understand what the person was saying. So for them to, for example, if it's a sentence, for them to reformulate it again so that you can have a better understanding of what they're saying. And finishing a meeting. So this is the wrap-up time. This is the key point to a meeting because it helps you put together all the points that you have broke down during the meeting so that everyone can be on the same page. Concluding, to summarize, donc en résumé, to sum up, which is also another way to say en résumé, to recap, donc pour récapituler tout ce que vous aviez dit pendant la réunion, to conclude, donc en conclusion, we have agreed that. So for example, we have agreed that all the key points that were mentioned during the meeting are right and they are facts. So during the next meeting, this and that should be mentioned as well. Donc, en conclusion, this is just to say that this is just to re-mention all the points that were mentioned, mais en grosso modo. Ending a meeting. So how exactly should you end a meeting? You could use a sentence saying, before we end, let me just summarize the points covered. Donc, avant la fin de la réunion, laissez-moi juste faire un résumé des points abordés. Are there any issues we have not addressed during today's meeting? Donc, est-ce qu'il y a des points qui n'ont pas été mentionnés ou abordés pendant la réunion d'aujourd'hui? Donc, c'est très important de faire un point just to make sure that all the key points are mentioned during the meeting. And if there are anything that were not mentioned during the meeting, this is the time for the participants to review them, to say them so that everyone can be on the same page. finishing a meeting. So how exactly should you finish a meeting? So the one of the phrases that are often used are that's all we have time for today. Donc c'est tout le temps qu'on avait aujourd'hui. I think we will have to leave it there. We will call it a day for now. So we'll call it a day for now. It's often used during meetings because now you would maybe there are some points that were supposed to be mentioned, but they were not time well managed. So you will pick it back up from the next. You will pick it back up next meeting, and then just keep it going. And we have come to the end of our very first YouTube Live today. So now, if you are interested in joining Cercle de Langues, this is your time to do so. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this YouTube Live, we offer what we call bilan pédagogique, which basically is an evaluation of your level. So you will have the opportunity to get your level evaluated by me or one of my colleagues, who knows, which will help you know exactly what should you do, when should you start, and also what your level is, what we have to work on, whether it's your vocabulary, grammar, all the tenses, or the pronunciation of the words as well. And luckily, you will have the choice to choose the accent that you want, whether you want an American or a British accent. It's all your choice. So, and if you are very interested in what we call the business English, which is the professional English, don't worry. At the Cercle de Langues, we have professors who work in that specific field. So they will know exactly what keywords to give you so that you can use them in your professional world as well. Okay? So don't forget to go to our website, which is cercledelangues.com. And then don't forget to check out our newspaper as well. So all the articles that we have written on our blog. Have a great day. Goodbye.